some areas are down, and we've only been able to broadcast so much through this. I don't even know who's getting the information anymore. We're just broadcasting, I guess, just to broadcast in hopes that people will hear us. The office has become, this is kind of like old school again. I'm now a single person in a basic studio, putting together stuff to try to get information out to a world that may not even be listening or may not even exist. The power that we're using, I don't even know how long it'll last, because the gasoline in the generators is running low, and the backup gasoline that we had stored, I guess we had not taken very good care of it. It got old, and when we tried to fire it up in one of the vehicles, it did not go well. It was almost like adding water to the tank. So, I don't know if this is going to be one of my last broadcasts. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to tell people kind of what it's like to live in this new thing that we live in. We've been told that there are military people or militias or these bands of people that have gotten together that are basically coming to rescue us. But we're deep into the east, into areas that I don't think that it's going to be a long time before we see anybody come. The only way we've been able to survive is because basically my wife was smart enough to put together a feed system, so some way of growing food so that we have something to eat, and we collect water mostly from rain, and we have a very cool filtration system. The beauty of being in the Northeast is that you have there was a lot of sand, so you can take that sand, put it into a filtration kind of thing, and as long as you have access to something like carbon, so like a burnt tree or whatever, you have access to that kind of stuff, you can filtrate it and basically make something that can make the water drinkable. Does that water make us sick? I don't know. I know we've been doing this for a while now. I know that the water works great for us. It's obviously enough to grow the food that we have. I'm doing my best to figure out how we're going to store this food for the next coming season, because I'm afraid that when the cold weather hits that we're going to have some issues. I don't know how that food's going to survive, if you will, or continue, or will it be enough to basically feed myself and my family. But it's there, so we've done that. The other thing I wanted to do too is kind of have a record, so this is being recorded too, so it's not just being broadcast for those out there that can hear us, so that if any of this gets out and the people are listening, they'll have an idea of what this was like, to be just a small, what used to be an inconsiderate little radio station, to being, I think we're like the last ones. There's a couple of guys that I know that were broadcasting ham, and I know there's an emergency station out there that's been talking back and forth, and we've been paying attention to that to try to get it to hear it. But again, these systems require energy. They require power, and without power, I don't know what to do. If you have a small radio and you're listening in, that works great. For those out there that have it or have some sort of supply line that can continue to get some sort of fuel or know how to do, I guess there's wood burning options that can help you with that, or plug it into a potato, I don't know. that'll work great for them. But for the majority of people, the concept of the battery has been lost. We don't have anything to keep these running for forever. Thankfully, radios last a long time with batteries, but I mean, cell phones, 24 hours of no power and they were gone. I was really happy. I was under the impression that the power systems would last a lot longer, over a lot less time than they did. They lasted a long, long time before we started losing. We heard explosions, and that's when the power went out. And I don't think it was anybody hitting it or doing anything like that. I just think it was these grids are so balanced that anything that takes them out of that equation does damage to them and unbalances the system, and now you have this kind of destructive system that takes it all down. And if you don't have anybody to fix it, and I think we had people that fixed it before, I don't think those people are around. I'm just getting my coffee. That's the beauty of having the ground stuff versus kind of the pod kits, was that I actually still have coffee and have a way to heat it up. So we've had a fire that we just continually ran to make sure that people will see it, number one, but number two, that we have some sort of heat source. I don't know how long that's going to last either, because getting wood is a problem. We originally had no ability to go out for the first couple of, I would say, months that we were trying to get out to get something, and then things kind of calmed down a little bit. Kind of like you had some time to preempt your stuff and get it together and kind of say, we're going to go out and scavenge and figure things out, and then kind of like the door shut. And it was almost like they opened the floodgates, that there were so many of these people that were sick. You couldn't, before I could at least trust that there were certain people that were trying to deal with this, and you knew the difference between one person and the next, and then the next second it was everybody was sick. We had neighbors that were fine one day, and the next you weren't hearing from them, and I look over the fence area and they were not the people that they were before. The biggest concern that everybody had, I kind of think in the first like when things went really bad, I think that the biggest problem we had was trust. The idea that you couldn't trust your neighbor. We had people that realized that we had food and they broke in to get the food, and if we hadn't been armed, we probably would have lost all that. And I know they went to other places, so these kind of scavengers, I don't know if they even survived. I highly doubt they could, because they were in the middle of this everything falling apart. And they would literally go to place, and if people were had anything, they were taking it. And it wasn't just one group either. It was a bunch of different people that just you thought were your friends, or people that were your neighbors, or people that you could trust. If hunger does crazy things to people, it changes them. They are not the people that they used to be, and even the people that you look up to and say they're good people, and they still are, it changes them too. I think a lot of people that are good people tend to lose hope, which is unfortunate, because you really kind of band together. And we do have a group of people that we're trying to connect, but you realize that anybody can get sick at any time, so you end up keeping to yourselves, especially in these city areas that things are both connected but completely disconnected, where you don't know people. You'd realize it quickly how it would have been important probably a long time ago to know the neighbors on the street, and to get together and say, we're doing this for the the hope of everybody else. But the problem, I think, with us doing that, because hindsight's 2020 obviously, is that the differences that we had were so immense that we kept injecting ourselves with so many people that did not agree with each other. It's such a diverse cast of people that nobody agreed with each other, and there became these divides or cliques or however you want to put them in. I'm sure there's some therapist someplace that's writing all that down and trying to figure out what's going on, and they'll be disregarded in a couple of years. But those people will sit around and say, okay, why didn't we connect? And it was because we had no connectivity. We had people that continued to be surrounded by everybody while saying that they were alone. And now that the world has fallen apart, they really are alone. And it's not just them, it's all of us. All of us who wanted to connect couldn't connect. And then you kind of say it can't be a blame game anymore, because it's not. These really are two-way streets to get together. So you go outside right now, and what used to be a thriving neighborhood it's amazing to hear the difference in sound. That's what I'm going to say that. Before, you didn't realize how many people were talking and making noise, and kids playing, and construction work, and stuff that we used to say, I hate that, we'll make that jackhammer stop at 6 in the morning. And now I wish I heard it. It becomes an eerie silence. But then you can hear the wind, and what used to be a quiet wind blowing because there's so much stuff that drowned it out now becomes a deafening drone. And I think it's driven people crazy. I think people listen to it, and that change is something that they don't even realize is taking them over. And they're suddenly engulfed by this new noise, and the noise is the wind. It's the sound of air traveling over buildings and through trees, and probably something that somebody would have fell asleep to in some weird playlist or something in the day that would be like, I need to have a way to go to sleep, so I'm going to play this noise, and it was wind and rain, and now that's the only noise, and it is loud. The only thing that really gets me excited now is probably like the sound of, I know the helicopters are headed up towards the Boston area, and that really does get me excited. I'm like, there is life out there still trying to do something, and trying to get to it. But what that noise has broken into is not just wind either. There is a noise of people, and those people are not well anymore. They've been replaced from people that were talking and chirping and children playing to something wholly unhuman, something that isn't a bird. It's like vultures, and this constant moaning noise that permeates everything. And even if the sky was bright, it drags it into this grayness that does not feel safe at all. Nothing feels safe. And then you look to the sky, and what used to be, like I said, birds, nice birds, or like cardinals, or something pretty that would finches or whatever they were, maybe even a seagull at this point would be a pretty bird, has been replaced with these carrion-like birds that just, you can see them gather in certain areas, and they're like the new street cleaners. They've come to take away the rot, if you will, but I don't know if it can go away. And the smell is intense. It's like living in some sort of morgue where somebody kept the doors open and the freezers weren't working, and it just radiates through the air. and it's mixed with this smell of burnt something, smoke. I won't even call it carbon. That it's not a freshly burnt thing. It's been sitting and rotting with the decay, and it's made me wonder if it's even safe to breathe what we're breathing in right now, because it does not smell like the world that we used to live in. And that is probably, it mixes all together. The sun does not look as bright as it used to look. It looks, and maybe it's the smoke in the air, maybe it's just something about the way the world just turned gray. And every day, even when it's starting to get warm, it still feels cold. It still has a chill in the air that you just can't shake. And you don't get up with your, this excitement. You used to get up, and even if I was going to have a lousy day, I had this moving forward kind of feeling. And instead, it's almost like being in a gigantic jail yard, that I'm here, but I just can't escape. And there is nowhere to go. You can go out to the street, you can try to find cars, you can try to find some kind of equipment, you can do anything, but none of it works, none of it runs. If you try to start something up, it just turns over and over, and people originally said that, that there was, they try to assign something to it, I'm going to say archaic or mystical, and there's nothing mystical about bad gas. There's nothing mystical about rot and decay. There's nothing mystical about flat tires or dead batteries or, all this stuff. And that's the other thing is if it's not something that's direct, it's always, you go to something and it's been harvested for some sort of parts that somebody else has used it, and it's almost like this vampire that's been draining everything dry until you realize there's little or nothing left, and you need to think, I'm glad I bought the stuff for the batteries, or I'm glad I bought some watermelons because I can use the seeds to plant new watermelons or tomatoes, or how am I going to make this turn into this? How am I going to pollinate it? It's this new thing that you're worried about, but I think it's gotten a lot of people very, very disturbed to be living in it, because what is hope? What is tomorrow? If you feel sick, where do you go to get pills? Where do you go to the doctor? What's going to be the next thing? And suddenly everything becomes problematic. I know we're not getting in touch with other people, but when somebody says, hey, I want to do something, who says that they don't have a cold or a virus or something? And what happens when it's now winter, and what happens when that comes around again, where we don't have access to pills or any of that, a toothache, a nail on you step on, any of that stuff is now fatal. It's a real problem because you don't have a way to treat it. And what supplies you have, we just thought everything was bagged in plastic, that it would last forever. We thought the things in the cans would be perfect, that everything was going to be A-okay, and it just, you're learning very quickly it wasn't. That it was, I don't want to say a lie, I just think that we were wrong. And how quickly people turn on each other, or how quickly they both, I probably should look at the positive of it. There are people that are trying to help each other out, are trying to be on their side, but the trust factor has gone to zero because everybody is starving, and when everybody starts starving, they start making decisions that change them, and now put them in a bleak world that stinks. It smells awful. There's no escape from it. I've tried numerous times to say we're gonna leave. That's it. We're done. We're gonna face this thing. We're gonna get in the car. We're gonna drive, and we're gonna go do something. And any little problem becomes a gigantic mountain. Cars broke down on the street. The gas doesn't run right. The car isn't running right. The battery isn't charged correctly. The tire has a flat spot. There's people down the street shooting at each other. That's the other thing. You hear random gunfire from time to time. What is that? Is that them attacking somebody sick? Is that a sick attacking them? Is that them attacking somebody else? What am I driving into? And if fear begins to not become a cautionary tale, but it becomes one that engulfs you. It becomes you. And that is the worst thing, because it becomes worse and worse, and you have to constantly keep it in check by not slowing down. You can't stop moving. You have to start saying, one of the first things we did, like I said, is we knew we could grow food. We had something that could work. We're going to have to continually refresh it, because again, the ground works great for water. It does not work great for food. So we had to get stockpiles of this soil that we could continually use. It was, usable, that we could put in these pottery things, that we could continue to grow food and then grow seeds and do what we needed to do to get there. When the store was closed, we had to break in. First we bought stuff, so we had already bought a ton of this stuff to start, which is the bonus. But when we realized that, we only had, I'm going to say fun plants, if you will, that we needed real stuff, that you needed to go there, and now there's nobody working at the store. They're all gone. They're all going back to their families, or leaving, or going other places, and some people were trying to escape. So we had it's right there on the counter now. Are you a criminal? Are you a bad guy for taking it? I don't know. I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to think it. It's leveling everything of saying, am I part of the problem or am I not? And when we first started doing the radio stuff, we thought that this was going to be a few weeks, or maybe a month, maybe 3 months, maybe never. Now, we don't know. When does it end? When does this go away? And now we're doing everything we can to hold out for somebody that may never make it this far. And from what I've heard, there's a group of guys on what's called now the border. The good thing is we do have enough information right now, and batteries still work, so we can get a little bit of other things going on, that there's this border that is becoming the new center of the world for us. But we don't know what the world looks like outside of that. It's gone now. I'm sure there's some guys out there, and I'd love to find them, that know how to work these big radios that can speak to other places. But we don't know what it's like. I've even heard that somebody was saying that their Geiger counters were starting to make noise, that they were concerned that something nuclear had happened, and that there was some sort of radiation in the air. I have no way of confirming it. I have no way of saying what it is, or where it's coming from, or who it's from. I just know that people were out there, and suddenly we had phones, and we had internet, and we had power, and suddenly it wasn't there anymore. It just slowly, each piece fell apart until there was nothing. There's no communication. Cell phones obviously went first, internet next. All the different stuff that was in between, and then suddenly it was, the power started to flicker, and you hear bang bang, and that's it. And you don't even know if somebody sabotaged it. Like I said, I think it was just a natural process. But what was that process entailing? Was it really that there just wasn't anybody to fix it anymore, or did some power plant someplace blow up? Is there something naturally occurring? Is part of this some sort of radiation that's infecting people that we never found the reason, we never heard a cause, we never, no scientist or doctor that I ever knew ever figured it out. And in fact, that's what they excelled at, was not knowing the answer, and that, I think, infuriated people enough. But then I thought about it and I was like, maybe it was not that they didn't know, maybe they did understand enough, but we lived in such a protective system that nobody wanted to say something out of place and then be told that later on that they were completely wrong. Or maybe they did know the answer and they couldn't say. Or so many different options there. And I'm sure there are going to be conspiracy theories written about it in the future, that somebody's going to ask, what was it like, who did what, whatever, and the truth is none of us know. We can speculate and we can say what we want, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm growing watermelons and tomatoes in my backyard right now, because that's what I need to survive. And that's how it's going to go. The idea that I'm on the radio right now and I have no idea if anybody's going to listen. Should I waste the energy to play music? Should I try to be a voice of positive reason? I always think about Good Morning Vietnam, that the guy was there and he was like, bringing positiveness to this situation that many people were seeing as a negative, and it was a negative, don't get me wrong, but the idea is when you're in the middle of a war, there's somebody that has a place that's safe that can bring you a positive feeling, and I'm hoping that that exists, but I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. So we're just kind of stuck here, and we're going to keep broadcasting until we can't broadcast anymore, and hope that you guys can hear us and say there is somebody out there coming. You just got to hold out a little bit longer, and that's the best hope that we have. You're going to have to tolerate the noises. You're going to have to tolerate the new sounds that we hear. Just keeping busy, looking for opportunities. Look for, maybe there is something out there there's gas that works, or there's fuel that works, or a car that works, or something that makes energy, or plants to plant, and water to make, and there's books out there that are going to teach you, and hopefully you grabbed everything before it all fell apart. Maybe you watched the Nature Channel, or maybe you watched some survival thing that before seemed so kooky, and now just makes me wish I should have watched it more. I should have paid attention, not because it's kooky, but because it's real, because at some point it really does happen. Maybe there's some point you have to say, wow, maybe being so technologically forward becomes a point when we've gone too far that when it fails, we're not ready for it. That nature still exists under all this facade that we've put over it. And the problem is when humans stop being humans, that the facade goes away. Maybe we were just doing that anyway. Maybe this is just some genetic thing that happened, and that's just how life evolves, and this is our asteroid. This is our big moment. Maybe this is what happened before. Maybe this happened to the dinosaurs. Maybe this, happened to, I think somebody said they didn't even know how Neanderthal went away. Maybe this is a version of Neanderthal, not Neanderthal, but Cro-Magnon, or Neanderthal falling over and Cro-Magnon picking up the pieces, and just one day they all got sick and keeled over. And the only difference is this time we got back up and started walking around. Alright, so I'm going to sign off. This is what I have for power for today. That's my allotted amount, and I will be back. Just share this out to people that can't hear it, to have at least some sort of voice in the darkness. And we'll be back soon.